The things they carried were largely determined by necessity. Among the necessities or near necessities were P38 can openers, pocket knives, heat tabs, wristwatches, dog tags, mosquito repellent, chewing gum, candy, cigarettes, salt tablets, packets of Kool-Aid, lighters, matches, sewing kits, military payment certificates, sea rations, and 2 or 3 canteens of water. Together, these items weighed between 15 and 20 pounds, depending upon a man's habits or rate of metabolism. By necessity, and because it was SOP, they all carried steel helmets that weighed 5 pounds, including the liner and the camouflage cover. They carried the standard fatigue jackets and trousers. Very few carried underwear. Almost everyone carried photographs, too. What they carried was partly a function of rank, partly a field specialty. In addition to 3 standard weapons, the M60, M16, and M79, they carried whatever presented itself, or whatever seemed appropriate as a means of killing or staying alive. What they carried varied by mission. When a mission took them to the mountains, they carried mosquito netting, matches, canvas tarps, and extra bug juice. If a mission seemed especially hazardous, they carried anything they could. On ambush or other night missions, they carried peculiar little odds and ends. The things they carried were determined to some extent by superstition. Lieutenant Cross carried his good luck pebble. Dave Jensen carried a rabbit's foot, and Norman Bowker, otherwise a very gentle person, carried a thumb that he'd been presented to him as a gift by Mitchell Sanders. They carried USO stationery and pencils and pens. They carried sterno, safety pins, trip flares, signal flares, spools of wire, razor blades chewing tobacco, liberated joss sticks, and statuettes of the smiling Buddha, candles, greased pencils, the stars and stripes, fingernail clippers, PSYOPs leaflets, bush hats, bolos, and much more. For the most part, they carried themselves with a poise, a kind of dignity. Now and then, however, there were times of panic, when they squealed or wanted to squeal but couldn't, when they twitched and made moaning sounds and covered their heads and said, "Dear Jesus," and flopped around the earth and fired their weapons blindly, and cringed and sobbed and begged for the noise to stop and went wild, and made stupid promises to themselves and to God and to their mothers and fathers, hoping not to die. They were tough. They carried all their emotional baggage of men who might die. They carried shameful memories. They carried the common secret of cowardice barely restrained, the instinct to run or freeze or hide. They carried their reputations. They carried the soldier's greatest fear, which was the fear of blushing. By and large, they carried these things inside, maintaining the masks of composure.
A true war story is never moral. It does not instruct nor encourage virtue, nor suggest models of proper human behavior, nor restrain men from doing the things they have always done. I had a buddy in Vietnam. His name was Bob Kiley, but everyone called him Rat. A friend of his gets killed, so about a week later, Rat sits down and writes a letter to the guy's sister. Rat tells her what a great brother she had, how together the guy was, a number 1 pal and comrade. A real soldier, Rat says. Stainless steel balls, Rat tells her. The guy was a little crazy, for sure, but in a good way, a real daredevil, because he liked the challenge of it. He liked testing himself, just a man against gook. A great guy, Rat says. And then the letter gets very sad and serious. Rat pours his heart out. He says he loved the guy. He says the guy was his best friend in the world. They were like soulmates, he says, like twins or something. They had a whole lot in common. He tells the guy's sister he'll look her up when the war is over. So what happens? Rat mails the letter. He waits 2 months. The dumb coos never writes back. You can tell a true war story if it embarrasses you. If you don't care for obscenity, you don't care for the truth. If you don't care for the truth, watch how you vote. Send guys to war, they come home talking dirty. You can tell a true war story by the way it never seems to end.
Originally, in the early 1960s, the place had been set up as a Special Forces outpost, and when Rat Kiley arrived nearly a decade later, a squad of 6 Green Berets still used the compound as a base of operations. The way Rat told it, Mary Ann came in by helicopter along with the daily resupply shipment out of Chu Lai. A tall brunette. At best, Rat said, she was 17 years old, fresh out of Cleveland Heights Senior High. She had long white legs and blue eyes, and a complexion like strawberry ice cream. Very friendly, too. She quickly fell into the habits of the bush. No cosmetics, no fingernail filing. She stopped wearing jewelry, cut her hair short, and wrapped it up in a dark green bandana. In the second week, Eddie Diamond taught her how to assemble an M16. And from there, it was a natural progression to learning how to use the weapon. Mark Fosse and Marianne slept together. They held hands and made plans for after the war. But now, there was a new imprecision in the way Marianne expressed her thoughts on certain subjects.
Naturally, we'll get married, but it doesn't have to be right away, right? I mean, we can travel first, maybe live together. Just test it out, you know?
Marianne, I can't find her. Listen, she's sleeping with someone. Last night she didn't... I don't know what to do.
Alright, sure, the Greenies. But it's not what Fosse thought. She wasn't sleeping with any of them. At least not exactly. In a way, she was sleeping with all of them, more or less, except it wasn't sex or anything. They was just lying together, so to speak. Marianne and these 6 grungy, weirded out Green Berets. Ambush. All night long, man. Marianne's out on a fucking ambush.
His jaw was in his throat, his upper lip and teeth were gone. His one eye was shut, his nose was undamaged. There was a slight tear at the lobe of his ear, his clean black hair was swept upward into a cowlick at the rear of his skull. His forehead was lightly freckled, his fingernails were clean. The skin at his left cheek was peeled back in 3 ragged strips. His right cheek was smooth and hairless, and there was a butterfly on his chin. He lay face up at the corner of the trail, a slim, dead, almost dainty young man. He had bony legs, a narrow waist, long, shapely fingers. His chest was sunken and poorly muscled. His wrists were the wrists of a child.
He doesn't look like a fighter at all. Looks like he's a person who only has hope.
Man, forget about it. It's a war. It happens.
It looks like he got teased in grade school.
Look, you feel terrible. I know that. Will you stop staring? This guy was dead right when he stepped off here. Get your shit together. Come on, we need to go.
But look at him, he looks so fragile.
The war was over, and there was no place in particular to go. Norman Boker followed the tar road on its 7-mile loop around the lake. Then he started all over again, driving slowly, feeling safe inside his father's big car, now and then looking out onto the lake to watch the boats and water skiers and scenery. The radio announcer sounded tired. The temperature in Des Moines was 81 degrees, and the time was 5:35. And, "All you on the road, drive extra careful now on this fine 4th of July." If his father were not such a baseball fan, it would have been a good time to talk. And Norman wondered what they would talk about.
The Silver Star?
Yeah, I didn't get it. Almost, but not quite. This one night, I wasn't very brave.
But you have 7 medals.
Sure,
7, count them. You aren't a coward either.
maybe, but I had a chance to be truly brave and I didn't take it. And all I remember is that smell.
If you don't want to say it anymore.
I want to, though. That smell, it was partly the river, the dead fish smell, but it was something else, and finally someone figured it out. It was a shit field. The village toilet, no indoor plumbing, right? So we camped in a field with fish, rotting bodies, and goddamn shit.
Well, anyway, there are still 7 medals. 7, honey.
And I don't deserve them.